In the mid-90s, we had in Texas a punitive approach to these kids. They were considered super predators. This was the 90s. Hillary Clinton, President Clinton were both up talking about these super predator youth who were going to come after our communities.
We need to take these people on. They are often connected to big drug cartels. They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel. And the president has asked the FBI to launch a very concerted effort against gangs everywhere.
So there was very much a throw the book at them mentality. So defense counsel were fighting against that, but it just was the way things worked.
The core of crime in Texas is the juvenile justice problem. I think we ought to try 14-year-olds as adults, down to 14 years old as adults, to help our gang task force members fight crime. I know we need to expand the determinant sentencing statutes in the state of Texas. We need to have boot camps, reform schools, and detention centers. We should expand the Texas Youth Commission by 1,500 beds. We ought to unseal juvenile records so that teachers, educators, and law enforcement officials know full well who they're dealing with. We need to say to our children, we love you. But we understand in Texas that discipline and love go hand in hand. There must be a consequence for bad behavior in our state if we expect to have a peaceful world.
My name is Jason Robinson. I'm currently 40 years old. I'll be 41 in a couple more months. I committed this crime when I was 16 years old. I've now been incarcerated for almost 24 years. I was locked up in '94. I'm eligible for parole in 2034. At that time, I'll be 56 years old. From the beginning, I was at a disadvantage. I was a first-time juvenile offender placed in a man's system. Well, I've never been locked up before, so there was nothing within the time that I got arrested to the time that I first hit Ferguson unit that could have really prepared me for what I was about to face. Ferguson, it had a very bad reputation back then. It was called the Gladiator Farm. I mean, it was just constant violence, and I've never been around that type of stuff. I was raised in the suburbs. They had a youth offender program that was being set in place, but for whatever reason, when I first showed up, I went to the Ferguson unit. When you came in the door, unless you were 6'4", 250 pounds, you had to fight. I mean, you had two choices, literally. Either you fought or you paid somebody to protect you. And, you can just imagine the ways people had to pay for protection in here. So, I was terrified. I know that, by far, I had more fights within the first 4 weeks than I had my entire life combined. I had to be about 5'7", maybe 140 pounds back then. So I'm already losing every fight, and it was very frustrating.
To put a 17 or 18-year-old in a cell in a cement box with grown men in their 30s and 40s who are stronger and have fully developed brains, to put children in a space like that, to cause that kind of trauma on a child, for me, feels unthinkable. We are all greater than the worst thing we've ever done. And I just don't believe that we can't rehabilitate children. I just don't believe that. Because of what I know about development and brain development and human development, people change. Everyone changes. And to stunt who they can become at such a young age is criminal.